Hello one and all, and welcome to part 3 of the Could a Championship Club Win the SPL experiment with me, Throughball FM. At the end of the last episode, I actually forgot to save the game, and I've had to get it to I think it was in April, and get it back to June. The only thing that's happened really is that Aston Villa finished third instead of second, so they didn't win the Scottish Premier League, so not to worry. It's been a little while since I recorded episode 2, and I just wanted to get into episode 3 to draw things to a close, and just to see if Aston Villa can push on. And interestingly, if they do things like make any signings, because as we saw for them the first 2 episodes of the experiment, they just didn't bother making any signings, and I don't know whether that was down to them not having certain money from the Championship, but we looked at the Championship prize money, and it wasn't great in comparison to the Scottish Premiership, whether it's parachute payments or solidarity payments or whatever they call them. I don't know. I don't know in depth enough about the Championship clubs and what they receive to know whether or not that's the case, to be honest. What has been interesting so far has seen that Livingston have actually managed to stay up in League One and have made a really good go of it actually, and hopefully they can push on and keep themselves in the league. Maybe even have a little push for playoffs. So what I will do is I'll do, you know the drill. The usual is just to holiday another year into the future, to get to the end of season 4, and once the end of season 4 is complete, we'll have a look at the all of the the things that have happened around the leagues and whether or not Aston Villa have won the Scottish Premiership. I don't think at this point that they're gonna, but I just hope that they can prove me wrong and snatch a league title away from Celtic. Right then, so let's get into it and do some holidaying like. Right then, so here we are on the 1st of June 2022 at the end of season 4 of this experiment, and as you can see, they've dropped down even further. They weren't. The gap isn't massive. I mean, Hearts done alright to finish second, but you can see there that Celtic managed to pip Hearts and Aston Villa to the title. Rangers are well off the pace, down in 5th, and Aston Villa still aren't qualifying for the Europa League. But what it looks like is that Scotland have actually now got 2 Champions League places there, which is interesting. So they must have been doing alright in Europe. But look at the player stats. The goals are so low. 13 and 13, 13. 10 assists for John McGinn, 10 for Conor Hourihan. So the Aston Villa players were up there for assists. But in terms of league position, 13 points isn't a massive gap. We'll just go and have a look if Aston Villa have actually signed any players. So if we go to transfers and history, so they have actually signed players, and they've signed somebody for actual monies, cash monies this year, in Iheb Mbaki from ES Tunis. But they did actually receive 8 million from the sale of James Bree, which potentially will rise into 10 million to Brighton. And they've only reinvested £325,000 of that 10 million pound, well, £8 million. A few loans out as well, but we've also got a loan in there, which is Ewan Henderson from Celtic. Can't see, any of his stats. Adam Bingham on a free from Cliftonville, a youngster, 20 years old, attacking midfielder. And got Anthony Robinson on a free transfer from, I think he was an Everton youngster, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there he is, Everton, played for Everton and then went on loan many a times. But he looks like a really decent left back actually. I mean, I can only see a few of his stats, but they look pretty good. Physically, he looks really good. He's wanted by West Brom and Celtic, so you can see that's the kind of calibre of player that Anthony Robinson is. Then we've got Rodell Richards, who's coming. He's on loan at Dundee at the minute. Coming on a free from Tottenham, and has gone out on loan. Scored 6 goals this season. What position is he? Striker, yeah. So he's not done badly. Scott Jackson is another free transfer. Came in from Tottenham as well on a free. So that's another player in on a free that they haven't spent any money on. And then this guy, Mbaki, is the guy that they've spent 325k on. He's a Tunisian right back, Tunisian international right back with 63 caps, loads of international experience. But he's come in, played 8 times, and got a 6.61 average rating, so awesome. And actually on the home screen I can see that an available job is available for Livingston. So I'll just check how they got on. 20 seconds. So I think they might have been relegated if we have a look yeah, Livingston have been relegated this season, which is a bit of a shame, but not by much. They were only 3 points off safety, and it was actually quite tight down there right till the very end, I think, as Livingston got relegated. But maybe they'll be able to make a go of it in League Two and get promoted right back to League One, where I feel they probably belong and deserve to be after a couple of seasons surviving in there. So yeah, good on Livingston. So the end of the 4th season, then you can see that Kilmarnock have been relegated quite comfortably there, and who got promoted? It was relegation playoff final. So wait a second. So Kilmarnock got relegated. Ayr United, who I'd noticed had got promoted last time, managed to finish 9th. That's an incredible achievement for a team of their stature. Way off, 20 points ahead of the drop zone with only a -14 goal difference. They've done brilliantly well. And St Mirren have been promoted from the Scottish Championship. Wow, Montrose. 30 losses out of 36 games with 10 points. That is absolutely unreal. How did they even get promoted in the first place? If we take a look at Montrose, where did they come from? If we go on, I think it's history. Yeah, so they actually finished 4th, and they must have come up through the playoffs. But that is unreal. They're obviously nowhere near this level. -61 goal difference, 10 points, 20 off Inverness in 9th. But yeah, Montrose going down there. Right, so then as far as the experiment goes, Aston Villa still haven't managed to win the Scottish Premiership, but they're still up there. They're still finishing high up in the echelons of Scottish football. Still, probably along with Hearts, are probably the 3 best sides there by quite some distance. Have managed to separate themselves from the rest of the pack. We'll see if at one last try if Aston Villa can win the Scottish Premiership. And welcome back, everybody, to the 5th and final season of this experiment. And as you can see, Aston Villa still haven't managed to win the Scottish Premier League. This season is just incredible from Celtic. Look at that. You've got 100. They've got 100 points, 71 goal difference, haven't lost a single game. Aston Villa managed to grab a draw at home against them, but they haven't lost a single game. Aston Villa down in 3rd this season, just 1 point behind. Rangers, who have managed to crack the top 3. Hearts have had a much poorer season this season, probably lost a lot of the players that got them into that position. So let's have a look at Aston Villa's squad and see if they have actually signed any players. Looks like they signed Timothy Fosu-Mensah. Transfer history. So they've got Ewan Henderson on loan again. Ollie Burke on a free. Wow. Ollie Burke on a free transfer from West Brom. Timothy Fosu-Mensah on a free transfer, which is another good sign, and it looks like they've actually really got some decent players in the paid 475k for Lewis Vaughan from Ayr United. Looks a fairly decent player. I mean, again, we can't see him very well, but Wilfred Castillo's coming from Porto. He's a 21-year-old regen French winger with some under-21 caps, so he looks pretty decent as well. Josh Earls came in from St Johnstone, a left back for 750k, and also knew a bit on the former Celtic man, 31 years old now, on loan from. Got him on loan from Slavia Prague, so quite a good, decent bit of business there. But they've still only spent 1.7 million, and they've sold Anthony Robinson, and this guy went to, who I think he was already due to go to Tottenham. I think he was due to transfer, so he's gone. The youngster Anthony Robinson has gone for £8 million to Leicester. A load of players out on free transfers. Doesn't look like on loans. It doesn't look like they've lost many of the big players really. If you take a look at the squad, they've still got Sarkic and Nyland as goalkeepers. They've got a lot of youngsters. See, a lot of the youngsters actually fill out the squad. The likes of Brian Johnson, I think he'll be a regen. Dominic Walker, Reece Cleverley's there as well. Paul Butler, Dave McGee, who was obviously a regen from Aston Villa. He looks like he's attracting some interest with 10 under 21 caps. I think what we'll do at the end of this, well, we're pretty much at the end of it now, but I think what we'll do is I'll take over Aston Villa and just have a look at some of these youngsters to see what kind of potential we're looking at, and just to get a look at some of the stats really. Also, we'll have to remember to take a look at Livingston, which we'll do now, to see what happened with them. They're the 21st in Sky Bet League 2. I don't know if that's relegation or not. Sky Bet League 2, let's have a look at what has happened with them. 21st, so they were 5 points off relegation. Livingston have been on a slow slide, and they're now down in the lower reaches of League Two. They don't look like they've got a bad team, to be honest. Sam Slocum in goal, he's a decent goalkeeper. Alex Cairns, I'm not familiar with. Nobody else that I remember there. George Frankham, the former Middlesbrough man, I think. No, I've got totally mixed up there. Former Wimbledon and Norwich man. But yeah, he looks decent for this kind of level. Lewis Kinsella, Nicky Lowe, I recognise that name. Alex Denny, I recognise that name. Who else have we got? Martel Taylor-Crossdale, I know he's a Chelsea youngster because I had him on my Chelsea save on Football Manager 2018. Shane Harrison, he's a Tottenham youngster, I do believe. Yeah, there he is, and he's been at Livingston for some time now without any real success. But yeah, Livingston are looking downwards probably rather than upwards now, and it's a shame because they spent 2 seasons holding on to League One status, but they haven't managed to do that, and now they're in League Two. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take over Aston Villa just to take a look at the squad and take a look at some of the youngsters really coming through. Right then, so this is the Aston Villa squad with the star ratings on. You can see they've got 2 really good centre-backs here, young centre-backs. Dave McGee, some very good physicals and mentals there for a 21-year-old. He's got some real potential. He's very well suited to Scottish Premiership football. Also got Paul Butler, who looks decent as well. Again, very good physicals, decent mentals. Probably not quite as good as Dave McGee yet, but Paul Butler again looks like a really decent player. Spent last season on loan at Partick Thistle. This season only played 6 times, but I'm sure he'll get more game time as he gets older. He's very well suited to Scottish Premiership football. They've got this guy Jacob Bedoy, who I think starts at Aston Villa on the game. Again, looks very good. They actually bought him in real life for 750k from Bury, so he looks like a really decent player as well that they've brought through, giving him some first team game time. Timothy Fosu-Mensah. Mitch Clark looks like he's come through as well. As a youngster, yes he has, but he's never really established himself, and he's only 2-star. Decent player for most Premiership sides still, mind, so he could still do a job there. Josh Earl, I think, is the guy that they bought from St Johnstone. Yes, he is. Came from Preston in the Championship originally. Then we've got the likes of Conor Hourihane still there. Jake Doyle-Hayes, I think, is another Aston Villa youngster. Looks really well rounded, really decent. Yeah, he's an Aston Villa youngster, being on loan at the likes of Ayr and Kilmarnock, and he's a good player for most Premiership sides as well. Then we've got John McGinn, who's looks like Aston Villa's best player, along with Grealish and Callum O'Hare. For some reason, it's still showing that Jack Grealish has got another half-star potential to reach, which I'm not sure about. But anyway. But yeah, Ollie Burke, I can't believe his fall from grace. Really, he's gone to Aston Villa. He's only on 9.5k a week. He's just not really done anything, has he, at West Brom. I got Brian Johnson, I think, obviously not the AC/DC singer. I think it's Brian Johnson, isn't it, from AC/DC? But he's another youngster. He's got very good physicals. His technicals are lacking somewhat, but he looks pretty decent, actually. He's wanted by Dundee and Hamilton on loan. Callum O'Hare looks like the star of the team, really. He's the guy getting the goals, this season after season, really. Just really good all-rounder, could play up front. He's only got 11 finishing, which is a little bit low for a striker, but still decent probably at this level. He's a star player for most Premiership sides, and he's done well to stay at Aston Villa, to be honest. He's wanted by Wolves. Then we've got Dominic Walker, who's a deep-lying playmaker, central midfielders with some really good technical stats there. 16 technique, 16 work rate, 13 passing, 16 first touch, 14 composure. He looks like a really decent central midfield player, actually. He's capped at under 19 level. You can only get better from here. He's already very well suited to Premiership football. Then we've got Jack Grealish, good old Jack Grealish. Still ploughing away in the Scottish Premiership for Aston Villa. He is wanted still by West Ham and Wolves, but he looks very good. He's a star player for most Premiership sides. Great affinity by the fans. He looks a very, very good player. Colin Oduteo, I don't know if he's originally... Yeah, he's an Aston Villa youth product as well. Played a lot of games for them in the last couple of seasons without really doing very much. But he's very quick, very pacey, young Dutch player with some under 21 caps to his name as well. Then we've got Lewis Vaughan, who was bought from Ayr United. He looks like a very decent striker option, actually, or inside forward. I guess he just lacks a little bit of pace on that wing if needs be. But yeah, he looks very, very decent and quite a bargain at 750k actually. Ian Lawton is a regen who's got some very, very good physicals on him, but not much else, in all honesty. 15 dribbling's not bad. But he's been on loan at Forest Green in League 2. Robert Robinson, which is an absolutely fabulous name. He's a 19-year-old striker with, again, very, very good physicals on him there, and some decent technicals as well. 12 finishing, 14 dribbling. First touch could do with some work, but he looks like he's going to be a very good player in the future. No youth caps for England mind. Zach Burgess, again, he's another one. Wow, this guy could be incredible. Who's he wanted by? He's wanted on loan by Crystal Palace, Stoke and Rangers, which is weird. Stoke was a transfer, I think, actually, but this guy looks like he's the real deal. He's 18 years old, capped at under 19 level by England. Already played 8 times at the age of 18 for Aston Villa, well, 9 times. Including last season as well. But he looks very, very good. Those physicals are quality. He's got some really good striker technicals there. 13, 13 and 13 where you want them. Good composure, good anticipation, good decisions, flair off the ball. Vision is the only thing that lets him down a little bit, but if you're playing as an advanced forward, you're not going to need that. Zach Burgess looks incredible. Rushian Hepburn Murphy, who's turned into a bit of a decent player. 14 finishing is really, really good at this level. Potential to be a star Premiership. He's already a leading player for most Premiership sides. Then Rodell Richards, who is the guy they brought in on a free, I think, from Tottenham, who doesn't look up to very much, to be honest with you. 22 years old, 13 finishing isn't bad, but doesn't look too promising. Dimitri Sear, who I think scored quite a few goals out on loan at Dunfermline in the Championship. Didn't really do much for Aston Villa coming back, but he looks decent as well, with 5-star potential. I don't know how much of that he could fulfil, but Aston Villa look as if they could keep hold of some of these youngsters. Reece Cleverley, I didn't even mention him because he's injured, but he's 3.5-star with 5-star at 17 years old, and he looks incredible. He looks amazing. Aston Villa must get some really good youth products on this game, but I think riding it out for another couple of years, Aston Villa could easily win this league with some of the youth products that they're bringing through, and with a bit of investment as well. I don't know what the transfer budgets are kind of like or what the finances are like, but I think what I might do is take over Aston Villa for this season and see if I can actually overturn Celtic myself. But that brings us to the end of the experiment. Ayr United and St Mirren went down in that end of that last season. Alfredo Morelos is still going for Rangers. You can see on the goals and assist ratings there. But I mean I think that's pretty much proved that that Aston Villa couldn't win the Scottish Premiership if Celtic would just be too strong for them. In real life, if they did move over to the Scottish Premiership for whatever reason that might be, but I mean it's not really a good gauge because, like I say, I mean it could have been one of the teams that are on paper better than Aston Villa, such as the likes of West Brom, Stoke, Swansea, teams with better players than what Aston Villa have got on paper. But ultimately, I think the team with the highest reputation in the Scottish Championship couldn't overturn Celtic and ended up coming third in the last couple of seasons. So I think that sort of sealed it really, that a Scottish Premiership side, an English Championship side couldn't win the Scottish Premiership according to this experiment. But in real life, I think they could. I think again, one of the better on paper sides could actually win the SPL and really challenge Celtic for that title, at least, anyway. But that brings us to the end of the episode, and thanks everyone for watching it. It has been a while since I've uploaded, and apologies for that, but hopefully going to be more regular. I've got a new series hopefully starting soon, which I'm very excited about. Thanks everyone for watching again now. Bye bye.